Hi guys, today I'm making a violet quilt block. This is a 9-patch block that looks more complicated than it really is, and the results are so beautiful. I'm working with these charm squares. I only used colors that appeared in the print to make sure that the colors were nicely coordinated. This is the pattern I'm using and these are the measurements. I started with the leaf blocks. I paired a pink and green square together and drew a diagonal line in the center. I'll be using this as my first sewing line, and I'm sewing another line parallel to the first line using a generous 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then I cut in between the two stitches, and here I have two half square triangles. I'll be using the smaller of the two for this block. Next, I started preparing the block for the stem of the flower. I cut one square of my background fabric in half diagonally to make two triangles, and I'm using 1.5 inch wide green fabric for the stem. I sewed the pieces back together, making sure that the seam allowances were facing in the same direction, while sandwiching the green fabric in between the pink background fabric. And then I started laying out the petals of the flower. I started with the printed blocks, and then I placed the yellow blocks, making sure that the direction was positioned so that I would end up with a diamond shape in the center once the pieces were sewn. Then I placed the background fabric along the sides of each petal, and I laid out the rest of the blocks. This is what it looks like. I think it looks pretty good, so I'm going to get started sewing. I started with the petals and I snowballed the corners. I didn't pin the fabrics together because I didn't feel it was necessary since the blocks are so small. I chain stitched the pieces together and then I pressed the corners flat and cut the extra fabric off, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I laid the pieces out once again to make sure that the orientation was good, and then I started sewing the blocks together. I sewed the blocks into rows first and pressed them, making sure that the seam allowances were in the opposite direction for each row. This will ensure that the seams nest and are perfectly matched when I'm sewing the block together. I made sure to square up the blocks before sewing. And here is the final block. I think it's so pretty. I went ahead and made 3 more blocks using different colors, and I have to say I really love this batch of fabrics and the color combinations. The fabrics work perfectly together. All the fabrics I'm using today are secondhand. The solids are thrifted from the Salvation Army, and the prints are from a church garage sale. Thanks for checking out my video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.